Welcome to another episode of Walk the Talk with me, Isla Reddin, and my South African buddy, Marelise Culbert. And we're here with you today. And each time that we're talking with you, Marelise and I have had a conversation, obviously, before we ever step in and record this. And we were talking today about how it's so easy to get stuck in patterns. And I wanted to tell a little story about a conversation that I had yesterday with a mom of a 16-year-old daughter. And this mom was very, very kindly helping me better understand what moms are working moms especially are dealing with right now with their kids and this place of feeling so squeezed between your responsibilities at work, your responsibilities at home, and knowing that you're raising a child through a period that is very, very difficult for the child and for you and for your relationship. So she was telling me that just fairly recently, she had managed to change the dynamic between herself and her daughter because she had realized that her daughter was looking for more of her time. The daughter wasn't necessarily saying, Mom, I want to spend more time with you, because that's not a very cool teenager statement to make. But what was happening was the daughter was saying, could we do this or could we do the other thing? And so what she had done was really kind of listen and then test different ways of being with her daughter, and had discovered that things were actually improving. The communication was better, the connection was better. And what it provoked as a thought when Marelise and I were talking earlier was, here's a perfect situation that we all get ourselves into, where we're just repeating the same habits or the same ways of being that we've had for years. And often it doesn't work. It's not serving us. We're not living the life that we want. We're not in harmony with the people around us. And how do we think about that one a little bit differently? So I'm going to throw the conversation to Marelise here, but that's kind of introduction to this idea of how we just repeat things that do not actually serve us. And then why does that happen?
Mm. Isla, it's such a wonderful point, because I think to a certain extent all of us are struggling with that on some level, because we are all the product of our environment, of how we grew up, how we were raised, what kind of society we were in, what were the socially acceptable norms, all those things. And it's amazing, because if you study the brain, you realize that literally from childhood, we are conditioned to react based on certain societal, cultural, psychological norms, etc. So it's whatever happens in your family is like your top priority, and whatever your mother used to do with you, it just becomes, it sets that pattern, and that is what you step into. And a lot of people get to this point now, they are adults, they are still doing things the way they've always done it, and it makes them wildly unhappy. We were talking specifically about stuckness, why people feel so stuck all the time. And it's that thing. It's because we have been so programmed and conditioned, and it's because of how our brains work. And literally the only way you can change that, I know people have spoken a lot about mindfulness and becoming conscious in the moment and more intentional with your thoughts and all those things, but it's even more than that. You've got to get back to all of this that I'm doing. Why am I doing it? Is it something that is actually intuitive? Is it something based on my own instincts, based on what I feel? Or is it just learned behavior? This is just the way that it was always done. And I'm finding that with the brain studies, people who realize that and actually have this big aha of, oh my gosh, I'm just another pattern that, has been set up and has transpired through this life. I can change that. I
Mhm.
can actually go back to, why am I doing this? And what actually feels more um, real to me? What actually resonates with me, not with the way that I was told to do it, but what is actually true to me. And once people do that and they realize, oh my gosh, I've got these mountains on my shoulders and I don't even know why I'm carrying them. And they realize that, you know what, this is actually the point where you can let it all go and get back to who you are. It's life changing for them. And that's the kind of thinking you need to start embracing in order to change those patterns, because it's all based on how your mirror neurons operate.
Mhm.
And so it's much deeper than just a thought or a decision. It's actually about rewiring, which sounds complicated, but it really isn't.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
just fascinating to learn how that works. Yeah.
But if you think rewiring in a context that most of us have certainly heard of, if not actually practiced, is this whole idea of exercise, right? Where you make your New Year's resolution
Mm, mm,
and you're going to go to the gym 3 days a week, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we know that the only way that that becomes a habit is
mm,
repetition
mm,
and consistency over time. And that is a model of rewiring
mm,
because we've got to build a new habit, a new pattern. And
mm,
it, although it's physical, it's in our,
mm,
in our bodies is where we're doing the exercise, but everything is coming from the brain that says,
mm,
Isla, get up at 6 a.m. and go to the gym. Even
mm,
when I'm lying there thinking, I want to hit the snooze button again, I want to hit the snooze button. But I will hit the snooze button if I don't, over time, really discipline myself to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So I think that we have examples for ourselves of
mm,
ways in which we do put new
mm,
grooves, so to speak, new
mm,
patterns, new habits in place. It's just that maybe we don't think about the fact that those stuck moments or those stuck feelings are actually those habits that were built in childhood so many years ago because they're so familiar and we can change them. We have that opportunity to
mm.
change them, but we have to notice them.
And the thing is, it's actually interesting that you use that as an example, because what this reminded me of, I've got a friend who takes up, she's very active, physical, everything. She takes up a new sport or a new, whatever the flavor of the day is, like every second month. And then she does it, she goes all out, she gets good at it, and then she loses interest again. Then she needs another thing and another thing. And I said to her one day, have you ever considered that maybe it's not the exercise that's the problem? You're seeking your fulfillment in something that might never have been you. Because the reason why she started this in childhood is, if you're good at sports and if you are physically active, you get noticed. Those children seem to outperform. But she never went back to think, is that something that I really enjoy?
Mm,
And that's what I mean with the rewiring. It's not only about going from breaking this bad habit and finding a better habit, or going from one good habit to another one, but it's actually to stop yourself and say, all of this that I'm doing that is keeping me hectically busy and not making me feel ultimately fulfilled. Why am I doing it?
mm,
Is it because someone, when I was a little girl, told me you'll go much further if you join the sports team? Or, You are not the sharpest tool in the shed, so rather go and kick a ball. Or you know what I mean? Go back. It's amazing when you go back to your earliest memory of why you took up that thing or why you started following that thing that you have gone all out on, but it's not bringing you that fulfillment, or you still feel like something's missing. Maybe go back then, say, why did I start that in the first place? Did I just do it because everyone around me was doing it? Or was that actually deep down what I wanted to do for me? Because that already brings a lot of clarity into the situation of what is it that I am feeling stuck on. And only once you go back far enough to go back to the earliest signs of that, do you start to figure out, was that my response to a situation or the environment? Or was that just learned behavior that was just conditioned by somebody else? And that eventually that completely made me override my own instincts, my own intuition, everything that actually fuels me. And that to me is amazing because you can do things your whole life. I mean, there are people that they are almost 70 that now are finding, oh my gosh, this thing that I've consistently been doing all my life and that I just believed was the right thing, that was never me to begin with.
Mhm.
And suddenly they are able to not fear the unknown. They are able to step out of a pattern, find something way more fulfilling that actually feels like themselves. And that changes their life. That removes that stuckness. And then also what that does to the people around them, guess what? It's got a ripple effect because you're talking about the mom and the child. That child, again, when there's children anywhere near you, they are watching you like
Mhm.
hawks because we know they model what they see more than anything that's told to them. So again, that pattern that you picked up on, it might not even have been said to you. You just saw, oh, well, that's what everyone does. So that's what I need to do to be accepted or noticed or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's just fascinating how our brains work. And it's never too late. Today's a new day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when you think about all of the patterns having been established by the time we're 7 years old, I mean, what the reality is, we spend the rest of our lives unpicking that in some way if it doesn't work for us, the the opportunity, I think, to kind of to really step back and say what what is working for me right now and what is not, I think is really it's important that we give ourselves permission to do that because it's almost the kind of the unpeeling of the onion, right? So everything was fine. I didn't notice what wasn't okay 10 years ago. But now I'm seeing that this, and this is not okay. So if it's come up now, it's come up for me to notice it and figure out what am I going to do with it.
Yes, yes. And how that liberates us
Mhm.
is amazing because by just changing one or two or three little things, it completely it unplugs that whole thing that is just making you feel suffocated and completely overwhelmed and leads to a number of other wonderful things that you might never have considered. Mm, amazing.
Yeah, the human experience, right?
And the wonderful thing is, we will always learn new things as we carry on, which is amazing. So it really is a huge adventure. And just, as we pick up new tools along the way and we become more equipped and learn wonderful new things, it just keeps getting more interesting every day.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yes, yes. And I think, you know, if a message that I would like others to take away from this little conversation that we had is just nothing is fixed. There's being a human on the planet. There's a lot that is in our experience that feels very uncomfortable, that's not fair. There's a lot of bad stuff that shows up.
Oh
But
yeah.
the way that we respond to it is always going to be something that we have a choice about.
Mm,
And
mm,
going out and seeking help for help or more awareness. I mean, just literally looking and going, is this me? Is this something I want to continue, or is this something that it's now time for me to deal with and handle? And I think those types of things show up a lot in parenting.
mm,
Except the problem there is we're still running so fast and trying to do so much to just to keep our heads above water. It takes maybe it takes a little bit more energy to kind of to stop the train and
mm,
say, you know,
mm,
this is not working. And if it's not working for me, it's not working for the people around me.
mm,
Let's look and see if we can do something different.
mm. And how wonderful if you can work through that with your children, because they are learning at a time where they are trying to figure out so many things for themselves. They are learning, oh my gosh, look at these amazing revelations my mother is experiencing. Wow, that really changed their life, and they start to learn what to look for, things that we never knew about, things that are only being discovered now. They are learning at the age of 16 already, which it's such an unfair advantage, really, because we never had that. But I'm really happy for them because I think it's going to allow people to be live much more fulfilled lives. And that's why we do what we do, is because we know that it can make a difference. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, awesome to share that with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for our conversation today. And thank you to our audience for being with us. And as ever, please put your thoughts in the comments. So or any questions you have or anything that you think it would be a good thing to talk about this particular topic because we're all out there doing the best we can with what we've got. So
Yes.
that would
And
be great.
and and where you possibly feel stuck, if there is something that you really feel like just can't budge on this thing, is please share it, because there are ways to get you through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Okay. Have
Thank
an
you,
awesome
Marelise.
week. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.